Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to my deep guide and another edition of Q&A. I've collected some more questions that you've posted over time, so let's start chunking through them. This was a longer discussion, basically about the frustration with Remarkable, and the original comment was it's one thing to have a minimalist philosophy, but charging a subscription for basic search function, something that a standard and every other device is a joke. Without a proper overview of my notes, a device falls at its most basic task. And there's like quite a few things, and then there's like this one, because like there at least Remarkable is innocent. Handwriting search is one of the new features that has been added to the subscription. So the base product is not worse, it is unaffected. In fact, the base product has done nothing but improve, albeit very slowly. The subscription product is made better until the price increases. And while that is technically true, I try to make a point here, which is like, by that logic, someone could be inspired to release bare bones MVP, minimal viable product, and then nothing that is done on the product will technically make it worse, as it was so bad at the release. That kind of view might technically work in isolation, which I think that the comment is actually saying like, yes, that is technically true, but only in isolation. But as soon as you put it in real world, this is the end part that I said, but it doesn't really offer a realistic perspective of how a product stands in the marketplace. And then the same person replied, yes, but no. Enshitification is a technical term to describe the way a product is changed to make it worse for the user. And this is not what has happened with Remarkable. I agree. It has not suffered the enshitification kind of a thing, but I was addressing something else. So decreased customer satisfaction, for example, for whatever reason, is a different thing. For example, if a company suddenly launched a better, cheaper version of their product with no warning, then people who had just bought the previous version would feel angry and cheated, but the object in their hand would be no worse than it was when the day before, which is all true, but it doesn't address the point that I raised, which is, if you excuse the launch, the base state of a device is so bare bones and so limited, then technically speaking, they would need to be extremely freaking talented to ruin something that bare bones and basic, which is what Remarkable 1 was in 2017. I know it because I've used it since day one. Like, I was one of the guys who got one of the original 100 units, I think 100 or 200 units, that were hand delivered in 2017 in September. And I've used Remarkable since then. And back then, that platform was like abso-freaking-lutely bare bones. And by that logic, Remarkable has done nothing but improve. And if you look at it just in a safe bubble of, oh, how does Remarkable compare now to before? Yes, you are right, generally speaking. But there are some areas that have been made worse. For example, you no longer have an option to flip a page to add a new page to your notebook. You are now permanently fixed and forced to use two gestures. That is enshitification. The other aspect of enshitification to the Remarkable platform is the introduction of vertically scrollable pages that you cannot disable that. It's great that you add an option for users to have them, but if you're going to add an option, you have to make sure that you encompass that solution for the users who don't want that. For the users who bought your product before that feature and who are not interested in it, and they don't care for it, and they especially don't care for accidental scrolls on their notebook. And the same thing applies for the zoom aspects and the zooming past the margins and things like that. Excellent, great, add those options. But when you're adding them, make sure that you are not making it worse than it was before. So generally speaking, Remarkable is not worse, but not entirely. There are aspects that have been made worse, so Remarkable is not completely enshitification free from all of that, but I don't think that's its main problem. I think that the main problem is justification of a platform that is so limited to begin with when it's launched, and observing that platform in isolation and not comparing it to the real world usability. Those two, when you kind of combine them, you don't get a realistic picture of what's going on, and that serves no purpose. Like, that's defending a platform for who? For what? Like, the platform is not going to advance. The users are not going to get a better platform. Who benefits from that? I would take MDO on my Remarkable 2 any day over my Boox NoteMax. NoteMax is not good for MDO from my experience. It's very interesting to hear, because I've used MDO extensively on Remarkable, then on Supernote, then on Quaderno, and now I'm on Boox and NoteMax. And in my experience, actually, it's the best, absolutely the best experience is on the NoteMax. So I think that you raise a very interesting point, which is that it all comes down to, it's great if you find a tool useful, like you are MDO, I hope, because you're mentioning it, so that's a great thing to hear, genuinely. But I also find it very, very interesting to kind of see, like, okay, so you have like a same tool, but two different people, and they look at it and use it from different perspectives, and therefore different platforms will suit us, and we have different priorities, different positives, different negatives. So it'll be interesting to kind of hear a little bit more which are the points that make it much better to use on Remarkable 2 than on the NoteMax, because I'm genuinely interested to kind of hear something like that. Love this video, especially the caring and empathy for the user with difficulties related to the refresh modes. One thing currently in the new 4.21 beta on the Note Air 5C might help with this, because you can generate a QR code to share for someone to auto-configure their device modes by app. That is an absolute fantastic addition, albeit I think that it's a little bit complicated, but it's great that it's there. I hope that they also have the ability to share in other ways as well, and most importantly, that you can share the settings if you have multiple devices, multiple Boox devices on the same account, that you can share easily between them, so that you can just have like your preset settings that are set to your user profile, not on your device, because that would make it genuinely interesting way forward for simplifying things and kind of, going through all of this with Boox. I would also caution one with a warning though, which is, this is all great and it sounds great. I never thought that the biggest issue, it was a big issue, but not the biggest issue, to finally find all of the settings. Extremely frustrating, difficult to find all the settings and stuff, but once you do, that's fine, and you learn that, and then you kind of do it, and then it's okay. For me, the biggest point of frustration was that Boox never ever committed fully to a design language for their platform. They do not have a design language for their platform. So while this is good, I am being cautious, and I will be skeptical until proven wrong. Again, here, I also too wish to be proven wrong. I hope that I'm proven wrong, but I will remain skeptical until that happens, that they won't introduce all of this stuff only to go to OS 5 in about a year or so and scrap all of this, so that the users have to start from scratch all over again, like we've had to infinite amount of times before. That's my number one concern with the lack of design language, design structure, and the design plan for the Boox OS UX environment. Remarkable feels lost right now. What is their priority? What do they want the device to be now? Because it's obviously their priorities don't clearly match what users want. I like the Remarkable Paper Pro, but I like the Remarkable 2 better and regret jumping devices. It's so obvious that they outsell everyone else. Wow, that was so constructive and addressing the concern on the point there, Gary. So citation needed. It is likely the Kindle Scribe is the best-selling product in the space. Apple was doing great and still realized their internal mission needed to slow down and take care of the basics of the OS X Snow Leopard to keep users happy long term. Company's mission can clearly grow away from their core customer while still selling well enough for a time. We'll see all this time in SAS services. I don't have a citation or I don't have anything like that, but I do have Google Ads insight for the past 9 years that Remarkable has been in place. And there too, I've seen a correlation between genuine success of a platform, not just for Remarkable, but for everyone else. And genuinely, when you have like a platform that sells really well, the CPP for ads that are being ran on a video that has that type of content is going to be higher for a more successful device and a more well-known, and more the device sells and more successful it is and more known it is, more the advertisers will want to be on a video like that, and that will raise the CPP. And that correlates directly because at the height of Remarkable 2, videos had association to ads that were paying most for that. Now, granted, that might be also the Remarkable itself, because Remarkable 2 was advertising itself on its own videos as well, that we're talking about Remarkable, go figure. But that is one metric that I do know and that I do have. And what I have seen is that it has basically now lowered to a quarter to an eighth of what it used to be. Now that itself is not an indication of just for Remarkable. That itself is also an indication of the health of the YouTube platform, a ton of it seeping over to TikTok, to Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So advertisers have been stolen away from YouTube as a platform. So therefore the CPP has plummeted, but not by that much. And even before that kind of happened, I've noticed the difference between these things. So effectively, I think that Remarkable is no longer in that strong of a position as it used to be before, and it's mainly due to what the original poster here has actually provided as a question, which is loss of a direction. And while Remarkable Paper Pro and Paper Pro Move are technological marvels, and I still maintain they are very, very important devices, they should have been supplemental releases. They should have released like super simple. No one would have argued against it. Remarkable 3, 300 ppi. That's it. That's your bread and butter. You launch that, and then you do your color stuff and really, esoteric experimentation, things like that with the active pan, with all of this. Yeah, you go ahead and do that, but as supplemental things. You do not take away the main bread and butter of the thing that made you a $1 billion valuation company, which was the Remarkable 2. And let's be straightforward about one more thing about Remarkable. The Typefolio is a great product, it's very nice, but that also is not what placed Remarkable on the map. It was Remarkable 2, it was simplicity, it was writing, it was replacing the paper. And that, I think, they have veered away from quite a bit now. So, since the management change, we have finally seen kind of okay, course correction. Let's see what are our core values and what are the core things that we have that we've already built that we can just kind of strengthen back up. So we do have returning back to writing values, and now I think that they're trying to do integration of the Remarkable platform with your office space. They don't want the Remarkable to be a replacement for your office tools because it's not supposed to be. Agree, that's great. It's supposed to replace paper, great. So now the question is, how do we integrate paper into my digital workflow? And that's actually what I see as their focus and attempts to resolve right now. Whether or not they're doing it in a good way or a bad way, well, they're doing it slowly. So we will see how it goes. Some of the implementations are genuinely good. Some of them are, I don't know. I mean, not there yet. So we'll see where it goes. But I think that that is the change in the direction. They're no longer focusing on improving the writing aspect. I think that they've gotten it like in the bag. It's as good as it's gonna get. There's nothing left to improve, even though I disagree with that strongly. There's plenty of things to improve, but I guess that's their kind of view. It's like, oh, this is as good as we're going to be able to get it. So now let's see, how do we give users the ability to streamline and frictionless inject this into their digital workflow? Hence the Slack, hence the new app, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's my 2 cents. Grandpa. Well, yeah, I mean, of course. Also, Voya, have you taken a look at all the current state of the remarkable third-party app community? It would be pretty cool if you did a video showing things like the better TOC for table of contents in Notes, Remanager, and the floating toolbar. I'm one of the authors of the mods, the floating toolbar in particular, and I'd also love to see what he thinks. Sometimes the community can pick up what Remarkable fails to undertake. Their recent AMA on our Remarkable table was quite telling. Yes, I agree, and thank you for all of the kind of inspiration to look at it, but I'm purposefully trying to stay away from that because I have, amongst many things, I have also an obsessive type of a nature, and I'm incredibly curious about things. And I'm afraid that if I take a look at it, I will try to evaluate it, then I might get interested to develop my own thing, and then I'm gonna get into a bit of a rabbit hole of just kind of doing stuff for Remarkable because I know my nature. So that's full on honestly the reason why I'm not taking a look at these things. I'm aware that they exist. They are incredible. I'm very curious about them, but for my own well-being, I am kind of forming a boundary right there until I feel that I am able to take a look at it in a, for me, safe way without getting too OCD about it and then obsessing and trying to kind of, just go down a pitfall of yet another project. In 4.1.2, Boox added a new mode called Smooth, which from what I can tell is similar to the old balanced mode. Oh goody! But I have to ask the question, why did they take it away in the first place if they're going to insert it back again? What's the point of that? Why do these things? This is madness. One comment on the design team embarrassed. As a designer for more than 15 years, I would not assume that this is a design decision, but a management one. The designers are most of the times hold back on that decision, so I would assume to blame the product management for that, not the designers, since the product features and their range of implementations are absolutely part of the product management, not the designers. Yes and no. I have worked for 20-something years in a video game industry, overlapping a little bit with software development as well, where we did have a lot of interaction with the designers. And while it's certainly true, good designers have that mentality as you do. And that is very much true, but you have probably ran into a group of designers who are extremely vocal about it and would actually stonewall production and implementation of things if they wouldn't get their way. So there's this and that. And also there's a bit of blame to go, not shame, but responsibility to go on to the designers who decided that implementation of, let's say, importing a file into your desktop app or your mobile app, that it's acceptable, that it is uploaded to your root, not to the path where you're at. That is a direct system design decision. And in my case, that's where the part of the responsibility lies with the designers as well, both software designers and the UI designers as well. What are your thoughts on the pace of the Supernote software development? Some really useful updates last year with the digest in particular, but updates are very sporadic and few in terms of each actual features. Their transparency via Trello is fantastic, but many of the features have been on there for years, such as dual screen. Books have probably 2 updates a year, but are feature packed. Weewoods literally every month. Remarkable are picking up pace as well. Very interested in your thoughts. I know the limited feature set on the reader is one of the reasons you prefer Boox, as well as Android compatibility. And then there was another reply, which is my primary reply as well. Private cloud came out from Supernote only a few months ago. Yes, on the one hand, what you're saying is certainly true. On the paper, you would say like, oh, there hasn't been like such a huge kind of thing. But the thing that they've implemented with the Supernote cloud, private cloud, and the server link is something that genuinely no other platform at all, no other competitor has anything even remotely similar. The hugeness and the enormity of the private cloud cannot and should not be underestimated. Now, I really appreciate that, but I'm also not blind or deaf to the fact that while that's great, an average consumer who may appreciate that didn't get anything else of substance. And in that regards, I think that there is that kind of a disbalance. I do have one point of disagreement, and I think that what they've done recently with the digest features and the text tool and the text boxes and everything, and how that was integrated into the whole thing, is far, far more powerful, again, than anything else that we do have on other systems. We don't have something like that on Boox. We certainly don't have it on Remarkable. And it's like, again, a very different approach to a tool. So we don't have a one-to-one comparison like you have with other features, like you had, oh, drawing of lines on Remarkable Supernote Boox. Oh, text recognition on Remarkable Supernote Boox Weeeeeeeelll. And blah, 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 blah. But now Supernote has started to go their own design route, and they are doing things for their platform. It seems like they don't really truly care about competing or what the competition is doing, which may be confusing for the users, but it's very, very healthy and good for their own product. If it's going to be good for their own company and for the business model, that's an entirely different question. Because some users may also interpret that, justifyingly so, that, hey, if they don't care about the competition, but I care about the competition, partially, then they don't care about what I want and what I need. And in inference, then the inference is, oh, they don't really care about me as much as Boox or Remarkable or Weeeeeeelll or others. That, I open that for a discussion here in the comments down below. I'm really curious to kind of hear from you guys what your position is on that type of a standpoint. Is a company that is putting priority on functionality and improvement of their own platform above conforming to the standards of competitors and what the competitors are doing, is that something that you would kind of interpret as that the company is not listening to you, or is that an integrity of the company? Is that something that's a good thing for you? So I'm genuinely interested to hear what your thoughts are on that. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that partially, yes, I can fully understand what you're saying, but on the other side, I really cannot overlook and I cannot overstate the significance, the size, the impact of the private cloud deployment. You do not have anything like that in the whole freaking industry at all. They're the only ones. And that is a pretty big feature. 2 questions, please. Does Weeeeeeelll require an account to use the device? What other devices do offline OCR without a charge? Yes, Weeeeeelll does require an account to use the device. You can use some features, but it also has lockdowns for some of the features. I haven't used it in a while because I only have the prototype, which is no longer updated at all. So I don't know with the latest updates how it works, but I've read through some of their release things and everything, and from everything it seems that you're still pretty much locked to the account. Quite a lot of functionalities are locked down to the account, and quite a lot of functionalities are online. I cannot state with any certainty right now if they have an offline OCR functionality or not, but I can tell you that Supernote has full-on offline functional OCR recognition, and you don't need an account for that. And Boox also has full online, offline text recognition, but it does require one time online for it to activate the model, the language model that you're going to be using. So the very first time that you're using it, you need to be online for it to activate. And once it's activated on the device, then it's full on local and you no longer ever need to be online and you don't have to be logged in or anything like that. So yeah, for sure, what I know is that Boox and Supernote can do offline without an account OCR recognition. If that's what you ask. Yeah, offline without a charge. Yeah, those two for sure. Thanks for your video. I think your characterization of remarkable standards is a bit exaggerated in the best case and in the worst case very biased. Their sync capabilities with their native software are extremely efficient and accessible, particularly when compared to the competitors like Supernote or Boox. Oh, really? Yes, you are locked into the ecosystem, but that ecosystem works really well. I wish there was another successful product development like this, which we could point to as a source of validation. Well, you're in luck, dear sir, because there is, but let me address my reply first. If you feel like you need to defend a company's failing and shortcomings for whatever reason, that's your prerogative, but excusing shortcomings and not holding companies accountable for bad implementation and incomplete solutions doesn't do anyone any favors. Everybody loses that way. That was my original response. And then there was an enormous wall of text, which is well-intentioned, absolutely, but I need to kind of summarize it because it's way too long to just simply read through that. So let me just find here the summary that Claude did. I didn't do the summary, I just gave it to Claude and he gave me the summary of this. So let's see what Claude said about the summary of this whole thing. So the summary: a viewer called at ddslum001 left a detailed response pushing back on some of my points. They made two main arguments. First, that because I run a monetized platform, I have a higher obligation to be thorough and accurate, and they want to hold me to that standard constructively. I agree. That is something. The monetized thing is really, it's kind of becoming completely negligible and almost non-existent, but it's still there, so therefore, yes, I agree. And that's what I try to do. I try to hold myself to a higher standard, and I do genuinely appreciate when others try to hold me accountable and to a higher standard, so that's good. Second, they disputed my characterization of Remarkable's import-export functionality. They argue it's actually one of the more refined in-house solutions well, he's hallucinating there, so that's not true. What they were talking about is about there's a bit of import-export, but it was also focusing on synchronization as well. One of the more refined in-house solution, and not more refined, but the best in class, was characterized, and that calling it basic could unfairly discourage potential users who don't yet know the platform. They closed by saying they appreciate the accountability work I do, but I think there's room for me to be more nuanced. Okay, let's explore this a little bit. And for me, the point is this: while I do fully appreciate, I genuinely do appreciate constructive criticism and holding me to a higher standard, that's a great thing to have, I do disagree with your characterizations here. And I have facts to back this claim and this position with. And I'm going to kind of divide this into several kind of aspects. So first, let's talk about remarkable services themselves. You call them best in class, and that you wish that there were, something similar with the app and the import-export and the synchronization, that it's like the best ever since sliced bread. Okay. I disagree with that, and it's not just me. Documents that won't sync across different devices and using the same account is not something that I'm inventing here. This is a well-known issue, and it's so well-known that Remarkable themselves have frequently asked questions about it. They have addressed it in many of their release cycles, or attempted to address it, and they never actually addressed it fully. So much so that actually, if you start digging into that, there's like a myriad of guides and user guides by users, by the community itself, to actually develop so many guides and so many workarounds to try and combat the difficulty and the problem of the Remarkable's sync service. And the very fact that something like that exists to begin with doesn't really indicate that the synchronization service that we're talking about here is the best in class. Because if it were the best in class, there wouldn't be a need for a whole myriad of tutorials, FAQs, guidelines, and troubleshooting helpers by the community itself to exist there in the first place, because if it was best in class, it would just work and nobody would need an FAQ or a guide for something like that. So that part is not just me saying stuff. That's basically the reality of the remarkable service with the users themselves. On the app functionality that you're also touting, it's a good app. It's quite a good app and it works really well. However, again, to characterize that as something that's like leading or best in class is really not the case. And I'll just give you a direct example while I'm talking here. Latest app, version 3.25. That's the latest one that I can get currently on Android. And still, the same functionality is there. If I go to a folder structure and I want to import a file, it doesn't import into that folder. It imports into the root. This has been a part of their structure since 2017. So after 9 years of this being there, this is no longer a bug. This is a systemic decision and implementation, and therefore cannot be treated as a bug and has to be treated as their system design decision, because they refuse to fix it. They refuse to improve this. This is not something new. They just don't want to do it. And as such, it is not best in class, because this is a completely unnecessary point of friction that has been there since the beginning of remarkable time. As a comparison, if you go to the Supernote app, for example, as a competitor, right? Because you said like competitors are not there yet. Well, here's a competitor app. And I go into the folder and I import a document, and lo and behold, it imports into that folder. No friction, no problems. That's better than the remarkable app. Objectively, there's no if and but. That's not an opinion. That's an actual one-to-one relation of the same operation. It's better on the Supernote. And then we bring to the table the discussion of Supernote Private Cloud and Supernote Server Link. That is something that Remarkable cannot touch at all. And that automatically, that service alone automatically takes Remarkable from this place several places down. Automatically, all of the other services are several places down from here. Why? Because Private Server Link allows you complete control, complete transparency, and complete privacy over all of your data. All of the data that you're doing. And then let's add to the mix completely offline OCR capability, inclusive links, headings, digests, converting PDFs to notebooks, and then you can use them any other way you want. Two-way communication with third-party cloud to synchronize, not just one way. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So it's not just one opinion. This is an objective state of fact where Remarkable is, not in its own bubble, but in reality of the competition. And to state that it's best in class and that no competitor can compete, well, that's biased. That's it for this edition of Q&A. Thank you so much for participating and for asking constructive questions, constructive criticism, and engaging in the discussion to see where we are at and basically elevating our awareness of things that we may be aware, may not be aware, etc, etc. So yeah, as always, post your questions down below in the Q&A so that I can collect them for the next edition of Q&A. Thanks so much for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!